The stakes are high for both sides in Saturday's showdown between Oregon State and Cal. For the Beavers, they're still looking for that breakthrough Pac-12 win. And for the Golden Bears, a critical game if they want to keep their hopes of a bowl berth alive. What will it take for Oregon State to snap their losing streak and beat Cal? We'll break it down for you on a brand new edition of Go Beavs. The Beavers taking the show on the road to Northern California as they get set to play the Golden Bears tomorrow afternoon. Could be one of their best chances to get a Pac-12 win as Cal has lost 2 straight games to Arizona and Colorado. Welcome into Go Beavs. We've got a very special guest tonight.
Yes,
Greg Laybourne. Lindsay, you look different. Jason Jean-Baptiste, of course. We're going to have much more all about Cal throughout the show. Plus, we're going to bring in Mike Parker to discuss some of the successes the Beavers have had in Northern California, and also why the Beavers have a key part of their defense, so you got to stick around for that. But again, going back to Greg, thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
If you don't recognize him, he was a DB in the mid-2000s. And we're going to take a trip down memory lane with you because you had a really critical play, a big-time play.
Let's do it.
In one of Beaver Nation's favorite, I'm sure favorite games, right? Yeah. Let's go to 2008 with our Mike Parker.
All the way back. Sanchez to throw, fires, and it's intercepted by Laybourne. Down the right sideline to the 15. Laybourne to the 10. Laybourne to the 5. Laybourne down at the 2-yard line. Greg Laybourne to the 2 with 2:43 to play.
The critical interception that sealed that one.
That wasn't that important of a play, was it? I mean, it was just a little tiny play.
Like
just
kind
a
of
little
upset. USC was kind of good at the time. Do people still talk to you about that play? Do you get it?
That seems to be the only thing they wanted to talk about is that play. And, to be honest, I have a little bit of mixed feelings about it because obviously that's one of the most exciting moments of my career.
Absolutely.
And one of the exciting moments for most of Beaver Nation.
Yep.
The mixed feelings come a little bit, one, because I didn't score there. Watching the film, you see there's a wide open alley to
Can't get too greedy.
to the right side.
You could have done the Superman, leap into the end zone like Tyner did this last game, but I guess.
But the thing is, I remember being really sweaty and worried about losing the ball.
Oh, you see,
we got to hang on to it.
That's
right. A true defensive player.
Right?
And obviously the neck roll gets a lot of comments.
Yeah,
too,
the neck roll, yeah.
Mixed feelings about that. Maybe it wasn't the best idea.
A little old school with the neck roll there.
Hey, it worked.
Yeah, it did work.
All right, so of course I'm sure you're watching the Beavers each and every week. I know you were down there last week. What is your take on what's happened this season so far with this team?
Well, obviously, it didn't start off the way we had hoped. I think everybody had high expectations coming off the last season, with the Civil War win. We expected to be right in the hunt for a bowl game. It didn't work out that way, but obviously the last 2 weeks, we've seen, almost a new Beaver team.
Yeah,
There's a new enthusiasm, a new energy. And really, it's something that has got the fan base back interested again.
Yeah,
so
yeah,
it's really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, and you spoke to it. Coach Hall has been doing a phenomenal job. I think, as former players, seeing that and seeing what how the kids are reacting to him is one of the reasons why they've been so successful lately.
And you might have seen an online petition going around this week to keep Coach Hall. It was started by the players. I know a lot of the players have voiced their support on Twitter. Here's what Coach Hall had to say about learning about this petition.
When I found out about it, I felt good, and I didn't feel good for myself. I didn't feel good for the staff, and I just felt good because I know how that feels to know that you're worth something as a player and as an athlete, and that you feel like you found you found what you thought wasn't there, right, over the course of the past 3 years. And I understand and I connect more with that feeling more so than for me and my future here. I connect with the feeling that these players have embraced the fact that they are winners and they know that they can win. They went and battled the number 20th ranked team in the country that has this physical brand of football, and they went toe-to-toe with them, and they looked at each other, and they believe now. It's not started to believe. Now they believe. They're fully invested, and that's what makes me feel good. And when I heard about the petition, again, it's about them, right? They're not petitioning for me. That's them, and they need to maintain that focus and understand they're a team, and they're way better than a lot of people gave them credit for.
Again, you can check out some of these tweets from the players using the hashtag HallIn. Lots of players tweeting their support for Coach Hall. I don't know, do you guys think he has a realistic shot at getting this job?
Well, I do. I mean, we spoke about this, earlier in the week. I think if he continues to have these players playing the way that they're playing, he absolutely has a realistic shot. I mean, and I can't reiterate and express enough how impressed I've been with him and the staff and how these players have reacted to them. I mean, he said it right then and there. His connection with the players is something that wasn't there prior to him, taking over as the head coach. So he's relatable. He could relate to them. He has a connection with them. And I think, as former players, again, when you have a coach that relates to you and could connect with you, I think you will go through a brick wall for him. Yeah. And that's what we've seen. He
absolutely deserves to be in the consideration. Yeah. I think the effort we've seen and the just improvement in play in the last 2 weeks speaks a lot for him. Obviously, what we see the rest of the season has to be considered. Yeah. But, when times are tough, you hear coaches all over, professional, college, everything, keep it in the locker room. Yep. And obviously in these tough times, he's rallied that locker room and he's got the players behind him. So I think that has to be taken into account, and he deserves to be in the running.
Yeah.
What's the biggest change you've seen him make?
Well, running the ball, actually being able to run the ball. I mean, we were talking about this from the very beginning, the ability for Ryan Nall, Thomas Tyner, the stable of backs, to be able to run the ball. Since he's taken the helm and since he's taken over, they've been able to do that. The defense is finally playing defense. So they're doing all those things that we expected them to do, and now it's finally come to fruition.
All right, much more to come on the show. A little later, Mike Parker is going to join us to weigh in on the Beavers' rushing identity. And after the break, a closer look at Cal.
The goal is to win. Every week we line up. It's how we're going to win that game. Winning's important, and winning's important to obviously us as a team, but the school. It's important to our fans, our alumni, the student body.
After we beat them, a lot shifted.
Shotgun snap, give it to Knoll. Ryan powers in over the left side. Touchdown, Beavers.
That was a great feeling. First Pac-12 win in over a year, I think. So for us to keep our lead and when adversity struck, we overcame it. And that was a great feeling.
Garrettson in shotgun, flanked by Artavis Pierce. Bolden in motion, bad snap. Garrettson keeps it, gets the lane. Garrettson to the 5. Touchdown, Beavers! And the Beavers win it! Darrell Garrettson takes it in, and the Beavers win it in overtime.
I really didn't even think about whether we were winning or losing. I was just out there having fun, to be honest.
For us personally, we believe we'll win every game. We go out there with that same thought process that we're going to go and beat these guys, win them, whether it be a close game, winning against them by 3, or blowing them out on the scoreboard.
Oregon State stunning the Cal Bears last season, winning 47-44 in overtime. You saw Darrell Garrettson take in that game winner. Obviously a great game, and it ended a 12-game Pac-12 losing streak for the Beavs and kind of shifted what they did for the rest of the season. They started to get some confidence, get some momentum. What do you guys remember about that game?
The amount of yards that they're able to rush for. I mean, Nall had 220 yards, 221 yards rushing. I mean, it was like a 15.8 average per rush, which is insane. I mean, those are like Bryce Love type of numbers, So if they're able to do that, and I think Garrison had, over 100 yards rushing that game too. So if they're able to duplicate that and replicate that this game, they might have an opportunity to have one of the first Pac-12 victories of this year.
Yeah.
No, I'm looking forward to seeing if they're able to do that.
Yeah, that was a real back and forth game. I remember. I think about 1,000, maybe 1,000 yards total offense last year.
That is crazy.
You see the highlights. We see Ryan Nall getting big chunks of yards. I think a lot of the times when we have big wins the last couple years, it ends up with Darrell Garrettson running into the end zone. So I think we want to duplicate a lot of what we saw last year, get back on track, but obviously limit some of the Cal offense.
Yeah, and one of the things too is that, so you want to talk about first there, if they're able to beat Cal, it'll be their first Pac-12 victory on the road in 2014.
Yeah,
so, I mean,
and we're going to talk more about that a little later. But new year, new team, new coach for Cal. Justin Wilcox took over Cal's coaching duties this season. Here's what his players had to say and what he's brought to the program.
Now Darnold takes a shot, and it's picked off.
Man, I love that he's like a down-to-earth guy, man. Just like I said, I mean, you can go talk to him about anything, if you got any problems with anything. And then he's just cool, man. You rarely see that, like, a guy just comes up to you every day, says what's up, sits down at the table for breakfast and just shoots it with you, man. It's just amazing, man. The guy's really a special guy.
He's a great coach. He brings the defensive mindset. We haven't had that in the past. And, I mean, he's just definitely building on our culture and just adding to our tools that we've already had and just educating us on football. And, I mean, he's been a great guy. He's brought us in. We welcome him with open arms, and he's been cool since day one.
In our Toyota opponent preview, a look at Cal's bread and butter, which is their defense. Of course, Justin Wilcox is a defensive-minded coach, defensive coordinator across college football. And you can see not major steps from last season since he took over, but just steady increases, exactly. Cutting down on the points, better in the rushing defense. But what is interesting is that they are missing one of their key players. And these last two games, they've allowed a combined 89 points.
Yeah.
So what do you think about what's going on there?
Devontae Downs, I mean, the guy was just an incredible force, someone that you had to account for anytime he was on the field. He was their leading tackler. He went down during the Wazoo game, which was 2 games ago, and he's still their leading tackler, which tells you the type of year that he was having. So I think from a leadership standpoint and someone that they look toward as being a leader for them, they are missing him, so which explains why offenses have been able to really rush the ball on them, score points on them. So they're not the same defense they were in the beginning of the season, in the beginning of the year. I think they are a different defense without him there, with that force there. So we'll see what happens with Oregon State, but I think there's the opportunities there for them to rush the ball and run the ball.
I think it's beyond just his stats and his production, too. When you lose an emotional leader on defense,
sure.
I think that's a void that's really difficult to fill. And obviously, that's the role that he's taken on the team. So him not being there really creates something where other opposing offenses can expose them.
Exactly.
Hopefully that's something where the Beavers can step up this week and do it.
Yeah.
On the other side of the ball, the offense hasn't been quite as good. Quarterback Ross Bowers has been decent. He's thrown for 15 touchdowns to 11 interceptions. So I imagine there's probably going to be some opportunities for the Beavers to force some mistakes.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. I mean, and listen, he's an athletic kid. He's not going to really run out of the pocket. He's not, but when he does, throw passes and is able to connect with his receivers, he is effective. I mean, he has 15 touchdowns, which means that he's able to do it. He's not quite as sharp as some of the other quarterbacks that we've seen in the conference, but he still, could be effective and deadly. So you have to account for that.
And when you look at Ross Bowers, you notice that his production really comes in bunches.
Yeah.
I think, you look at the wins early in the season against North Carolina, Ole Miss, and then obviously the big win at Washington State. A lot of his production comes in those games.
Yeah.
So I think, there's really 2 quarterbacks that could show up. So it's really important for the Beavers to get to him, make him uncomfortable, because if we get that other quarterback, then there's definitely an opportunity for us to get a win.
Victory, yeah.
He's got some acrobatic moves. See, everybody loved his flip into the end zone. I guess his mom was a former gymnast.
That's still one of the plays of the year in the conference. It has to be. It has to be.
Well, when it comes to their offense as a whole, Cal ranks last in the Pac-12 in yards per play, 11th in total offense, and rushing. Where can they hurt you? What do we expect out of this offense?
Well, and that's just the things that you really don't know. I mean, because, when they're hot like they were against Washington State, and when they're not, like these last 2 games that we've seen. But they still do have the ability to score. I mean, you have some big running backs, so you have to make sure that you wrap them up and you gang tackle them. Pursuit to the ball is going to be huge in this game. So if they have the ability to do that and are able to do that during the game, I think it'll be fine. We just have to be careful because they are playing at home. They're going to be energized. So, you have to account for all that.
Yeah, ultimately, I think it comes down to the front 7 really getting a lot of pressure on the quarterback. I think that's really the name of the game here because when he struggles, I think that whole offense struggles.
Yeah.
So if we can get after him, we got a good chance.
Yeah.
Still to come, we're unveiling our second round of our damn best bracket. And coming up after the break, Mike Parker joins us to discuss the Beavs' success in Strawberry Canyon over the years. Welcoming in Mike Parker from Corvallis. And Mike, the Beavers dropped 4 interceptions against Stanford last weekend. How important is it to capitalize this week?
Well, that was one of the questions that Corey Hall was asked, and in a sense it was his way to take a little bit of pressure off Ryan Nall, who was really wearing deep in his soul those 2 fumbles that he had, one he was involved with in the first half and the one that came late. Corey Hall, not only having Ryan Nall's back with this answer, but also recognizing that for the Beavers, not only to get close, but to get over the hump, they're going to need to make those plays, and he was quite clear that there were opportunities against Stanford.
I always say it wasn't one play, all right, that lost that game. But it was one play, all right, that could have won that game. So you take any one of those scenarios or situations, you take an interception that was dropped that could have been made, you take away the 15-yard penalty, right? You just one of those, and that's why I continue to say we're one play away. And Ryan Nall is not the reason why you lose that game, because at the end of the day, it was 4th and 10, right? I mean, and the guy makes a great catch.
One of those opportunities was a near pick 6 for Manasseh Hungalu. Ross Bowers, the Cal quarterback, has done a lot of good things, but he has thrown 11 interceptions. So while the Beavers did pick off Keller Christ, who rarely throws them, they may have more opportunities from Bowers this weekend in Strawberry Canyon. And I think that there will be a couple of opportunities, and Coach Hall, everybody else, hoping the Beavers can squeeze those, affect turnovers and change field position, give themselves a chance to win.
So on the other side of the football, we've seen the Beavers run pretty well over the past couple of weeks. How easily do you think they're going to be able to run on the Cal defense this weekend?
Well, last year, as you remember, they ran through, around, over the California Golden Bears' woebegone run defense. Justin Wilcox, the head coach, a defensive guy. His D coordinator, Tim DeRuiter, very solid defensive guy. They've improved in their run defense manifold ways from last year. However, the Beavers have, as Kevin McGibbon, the offensive coordinator, said this week, gotten back to their roots and gotten back to the true identity they showed against Cal last year and against Arizona and Oregon and what they've been doing in their last couple of games. So now I really think the Beavers are going to be able to run the football. Maybe not 471 yards worth like they did last year, but they'll put up a good number with their talented backfield.
And historically, they've actually played pretty well there as far as recent history goes. Why do you think that is, Mike?
Well, the most recent trip, unfortunately, is the lone loss in the 21st century. That was the last time the Beavers were there, and they were dealing with Jared Goff, who threw the ball very well in that game in Strawberry Canyon. But you're right, Amanda, the Beavers have played extremely well there, and oftentimes as a heavy underdog. One of the more memorable games in the modern era for the Beavers took place at Memorial Stadium when Cal was a provisional #1 for about 30 minutes, and the Beavers won down there in 2007. A great performance by the Beavs in all levels to hold off Cal and prevent the Golden Bears from going to #1. It's been a place we've seen some great football. I expect the Beavers to kind of uphold that tradition again tomorrow.
All right, thanks so much, Mike. Identity and how it is unfolding. But first, the Beavers secondary has been decimated by injury. Who is next to step up? Well, back here in Go Beavs, we're setting the stage for tomorrow's matchup between Oregon State and Cal. Still to come on the show, Ryan Nall moving up the rankings for the top Oregon State running backs. What to expect from him this week, and we're unveiling our latest matchup in our damn best bracket, and we'll reveal our ingredients to victory. Well, it has been a long time since the Beavers last won a road game, 2014 to be exact. It was at Colorado. We're going to rewind to what was a fun memory, but now it's just, again, just getting dragged out.
2014 is like ages ago.
2014. Let's take a look.
The corner run blitz is on. They give it to Ward. Ward breaks Henderson's tackle, gets into the secondary. 45-40, right sideline 30 to the 25 and run out of bounds. Loop out a throw over the middle and intercepted by DJ Alexander. 25 to the 20, 15 to the 10. DJ run out of bounds inside the 10-yard line. The Beavers with their 6th interception of the season. DJ Alexander. Holden comes through in fly sweep action, but doesn't get the ball. Mannion to throw, hit as he throws. Angle route towards the end zone. Flags down. Caleb Smith up, catches it. Touchdown Beavers.
So here's what the cool kids were looking at and listening to in 2014. Best picture, 12 Years a Slave, Breaking Bad. We were quizzing Jason on what he thought the best drama series would be, and you said Grey's Anatomy.
Okay, first of all, that was a good guess. That was a really good guess because Grey's Anatomy is still on.
I feel like it's been on for 20 years.
Yeah, it's been on forever. Like, seriously, is McDreamy still on that show?
I think, well, maybe he died. I don't know. I could have just...
McDreamy,
I think there's multiple.
Oh, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Whatever. It doesn't matter.
So, again, in that span, the Beavers have lost 16 consecutive road games. Obviously, a coaching change, different teams, that plays a part of it. But why do you think they've had this big struggle?
Okay, can I just say something? In those highlights, all 3 of those players are currently playing in NFL. So the talent level that was on those team or on that particular team really helped them, get a win on the road. Not saying that there's not talent on this particular team, but all 3 of those players, Mannion, Terran Ward, DJ Alexander, they made plays on the road. One of the difficulties that we've been having with OSU is that they haven't been able to make those plays in needed times. So I think in order for them to get a road victory against Cal and against some of these other Pac-12 teams, they have to be able to make those plays on the road. And, we'll see what happens, but they haven't been able to do it. So
absolutely. And like you said, all 3 of those guys are playing in the NFL. DJ, a Pro Bowler, and they're NFL vets now.
Right.
Those guys have been there for 3 years, which shows how long the streak has been. So it's really something. I think this is the time to end that streak.
Yeah.
I think we're poised for a great opportunity down there. And I think if the team shows up the way it has the last couple weeks, but with the belief that they can do it, I think it's going to be a good outcome for us.
Yeah, Strawberry Canyon's been good to us.
It has been.
Had good times there.
Yeah.
All right, turning to our standard TV and appliance headlines, and this one is an important one. Defensive star Manasseh Hungalu was cited by police for, quote, violent conduct following a confrontation outside a Corvallis restaurant. Corey Hall has said he does expect him to play. Obviously, team's leading tackler, big vocal guy. How important is it that they have him?
Oh, it's huge. It's absolutely huge. We spoke about Devontae Downs and what he meant to that on defense and that core group of defenders. And I say it's the same exact thing on the opposite side for Oregon State. You lose him, you lose your anchor, you lose your emotional leader. I mean, you lose someone who has been playing phenomenally well on that side of the ball. So for him not to play would be a huge hit to that defense and their emotional state.
Also tough on the defense is the secondary has just been decimated by injuries. I want you to take a look at this list. I mean, now we're down to, we kept putting people in, next man up, but they have just a ton of people out. You can see, again, Landry Payne, who had a great game against Stanford. He's out, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8 people. 8 people in the secondary.
Yeah, and I mean, Xavier Crawford has been out for a little while now, too. And again, he was, a freshman All-American last year. So they've had, injuries from the very beginning, from the outset of the season, it seems like. And for this to be an ongoing, continuing situation just puts that secondary and puts the pressure on the secondary to really make plays because they're gonna test them, especially Bowers. I mean, chances are the Oregon State defense should be able to stop the run, which will then mean that Bowers was going to throw the ball. Yeah. So, we talked about them not getting interceptions last week when they had the opportunity to make those plays. So if you have players in there that aren't used to playing and making those plays, it could be a potential issue for them.
And I think you need the front 7 to really step up. I know as a former DB, your best friend is a good pass rush. I think on that clip they showed of me earlier against USC, the part that nobody notices is that Stephen Paya took the offensive guard and pushed him right into Mark Sanchez's
he's pretty good.
lap.
He's kind of okay, right?
That's the reason the ball was thrown where it was. So I think, all the credit, most of the credit on that goes to Stephen. And I think we need a little bit of that out of our front 7
Absolutely,
here.
yeah.
If we can get some pressure up front, quarterback makes a bad throw, you don't need to have perfect coverage. You just need to make the play when the ball comes your way.
Right. Being in that DB room, taking us back to when you were playing, I mean, 1 through whatever you are on the depth chart. I mean, is everybody truly ready? They always say, oh, next man up, he'll be fine. But I want to know from a former DB.
I think you need a little different mindset as a DB. You're out on an island, and I think when you make a mistake, everybody sees it. You're the one on the ground as someone else is going for a touchdown. So I think you need a little different makeup. You need to be very confident in your abilities.
Forgetful.
Forgetful.
You need to be forgetful. It's funny
remember
because...
the good.
Yeah, you remember... I'll never forget, and I'll do this really quickly, but I'll never forget when we played at Strawberry Canyon, Aaron Rodgers was the quarterback for Cal at that time, and I wanted to hit him so bad because he kept on scrambling, and there was one time in particular where I hit him a little bit late, and Brandon Browner intercepted the ball, and it got called back because I hit Aaron Rodgers late. And he came back to the huddle, and he was cursing me. He was like, "Man, that was like my only interception." So you have to have a forgetful memory because when things don't go your way, you have to be able to play the next down and be able to play. So
you probably feel pretty good now.
I do.
Roughed up Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, later in the show, how important are the Beavers' linebacking core this week versus Cal? We'll discuss. And Ryan Nall looks to make a little history. We explain after the break.
I mean, he surprised me going into that game. He had a great game against us.
10 yards carry. And Nall does. Touchdown Beavers. Running through tackles. More. He is going to the house. Why not? He deserved that.
He's just a big guy, you know what I'm saying? A hard runner. I mean, he's downhill too, man. And you can see it when you watch film.
Hyundai highlight, Ryan Nall writing himself into the Oregon State history books. Right now, he's the program's 10th career rusher with just over 2,000 yards. He needs only 82 more yards to surpass J.J. Young at number 9. Back here with Jason at the Mondo Pad, taking a closer look at Cal's stiff run defense. Do you think Ryan Nall can get those 82 yards?
I think he can do it. I think he can do it, but it's not going to be easy.
Okay.
It's not going to be easy, and there's 2 reasons why, 2 plays specifically. I'm going to show you as to why it's going to be hard for him to get those 82 yards. So this first play, as you'll see, I want to highlight one player specifically, and it's this guy right over here. And the reason why I want to highlight that guy is because what you'll notice is that they're going to bring a backside blitz in order to shut this play down, and it ends up being super effective because he ends up tackling the player in the backside, for a loss, 1 or 2 yards or so. So I think that with Ryan Nall, they're probably going to end up doing that a lot, just because they know that he's going to get the ball. They're going to be trying to run the ball. So you can see that a lot with Cal. This second play right here, the guy I want to highlight is going to be this guy right here. And the reason why I want to highlight him is because he doesn't really get blocked. I mean, he's such a big guy and he's so athletic that he's able to get around his block and ends up, completely eliminating this play all the way in the backfield. It was going to be probably a reverse, and he's able to make this play. Even though they don't have Devontae Downs, their main guy who's been hurt now for 2 games, they're still able to shut down the run by bringing blitzes and beating, guys on the block.
And so we've seen the Beavers do pretty well at the line of scrimmage over the last 2 weeks. What do you think is the key to succeeding against this line?
They have to maintain their blocks. I mean, that's the same with any kind of run game. Anytime they're playing against a athletic defense, which this defense is, you have to be able to maintain the block and be able to make sure that your run backs have holes to run through. As long as they're able to do that, I think they'll be successful.
All right, we have seen a revitalized offense under Coach Hall. Here's how they're getting it done.
We're going to establish the run because obviously defenders are not going to tackle in the 4th quarter like they do in the 1st. And if they do, well, you deserve to win. But I want to see you do it. So, I mean, I think that's the approach that you take. They're a good team, and that's why we do it, right? You're in the Pac-12 to play good teams week in and week out. So right now, that's all I can really say about the game plan. That's kind of just where my mind's at. And I'll go and talk to the coordinators, and I'm pretty sure their game plans will be perfect.
Game plans will be perfect. What does this team need out of the running backs in order to succeed against Cal?
I think they need a balanced rushing attack. I think Last game, specifically against Stanford, both Tyner and Nall were effective.
Yeah.
And both of them were on the field at the same time. They had a lot of misdirection plays, which I think is really effective because you're utilizing the ability of both players. You know, they're both dynamic in their own way. Nall is more of a bruiser. Tyner is more of a speed guy, but you can also run in between the tackles. So you maximize that talent, and they're able to be effective. I think that's what you need to see from them both.
Yeah. And I really like seeing both of them on the field together because, like you said, they really are two different type of runners, both effective in their own way. And when you're trying to tackle as a defender, you know, guys are moving. You're preparing for the big hit. You're also preparing for the quicker back.
Yep,
you know, it's
speed.
a lot going through your head, and the game moves quickly. So I think having that dynamic duo out there can be really effective.
Yeah.
How important is it the way that they've been getting them the ball too? I know we've talked about on the shows just how much more creativity there seems to be in the play calling in the last 2 weeks.
Absolutely. I think one of the benefits of having Coach Hall be the head coach right now is that he's really pretty much opened the book to his coordinators, telling them, you know, show me where your creativity is. Show me how you could be able to get these guys the ball, our best players the ball, so that they could be put in a position to succeed. And they've been able to do that. If they're able to do that against Cal, they'll continue along that path and still create big plays and score touchdowns. That's one of the things that we haven't seen is that, you know, from Oregon State, they haven't been able to score touchdowns passing the ball. They've only been able to score touchdowns running the ball, especially for the last 4 games. So if they're going to be effective, running backs have to score touchdowns.
Yeah. And I think all these coaches right now realize that they're auditioning for next year.
Absolutely, yeah.
With the playbook, they're saying, all right, what can I do to show my value and to try to keep defenses off balance?
Yeah.
All right, later in the show, we're handing out our ingredients to victory. But first, we're unveiling the latest matchup in our damn best bracket. We have plenty of Beaver shows throughout the week to keep you covered throughout fall. Catch Talkin' Beavers Wednesday at 7 p.m., followed by Inside the Huddle Thursdays at 9, and Go Beavs next Friday at 11 p.m. And we're looking to crown the top performance in Oregon State football history in our damn best bracket. We were looking at the defensive matchup of Jess Lewis versus Anoke Brechterfield last week. You voted. Let's see the winner.
What?
Oh, that's a strong reaction. It was fairly close, though, 56 to 44%. Next up, we've got, you want to know one of your favorites, Nick Barnett versus Jordan Poyer in the offensive matchup. Who do you think wins this one? Who should win?
As much as I love me some Nick Beats, that's my boy. That's my boy. That's my boy. That's my boy. Jordan Poyer is one of the most decorated defensive players ever to play at Oregon State. You know, he was a part of that defense for all 4 years, was, you know, someone that was effective, and, I mean, he was an emotional leader, a leader by the way that he played the game, and I think he has to win this one. I mean, no doubt about that.
And you said, did he play a little DJ? He was a little DJ?
Yeah, well, Nick Beats was our DJ. You know, after every game, home game, he would be the DJ of the after party, you know, that we would have. So, a mostly talented young man.
Right? And you and Greg, you got to know Jordan Poyer on a recruiting trip, right?
Absolutely. I was actually, I think we went paintballing or something. Coach Riley used to take the team out for a lot of fun events, especially when the recruits were in town. So we're taking the bus home afterwards, and I ended up sitting next to Jordan because we're both Oregon.
Did you guys win? Were you on the same team? Paintballing?
I think we just shot all the recruits. I don't know.
Oh, man, I like it.
But we got them all the time. So I think it worked out pretty well.
It was effective, yeah.
But I remember sitting with Jordan, and you know, he was saying how much he really wanted to come to Oregon State, but he wasn't sure if they were going to offer him.
Yeah.
So I remember telling him, hey, you know, this is going to be a great place to go either way. You know, I was a walk-on here, and they gave me my opportunity, as they've done with so many walk-ons before me.
Yeah.
I think luckily they came to their senses and offered him a scholarship. I don't know why he wasn't right at the top of that list, but we're very glad we had him.
Right, and both of you guys are Oregon guys too, right? Oregon kids.
Yeah, I'm from Portland, but he's from Astoria.
Yeah.
So I think the local kids are starting to get, you know, because of Jordan and other players like him, I think the local kids are starting to get more of a look from the big-time schools, and I don't think it was always that way.
Right.
All right. Nick Barnett, Jordan Poyer. You can vote on our Facebook page, facebook.com/NBCS Northwest. Moving back to this weekend's game, Cal offensive coordinator Bo Baldwin and defensive coordinator for Oregon State Kevin Clune know each other pretty well from their Big Sky days. So what do they expect from that matchup coming up this weekend? That is in our Buster's Barbecue Q&A.
Oh, there's a few different guys. 32 really does a good job getting to the passer, and does different things that way and makes a lot of plays. But I just think their front in general, one does a really good job at different times. Their front in general, I think, plays with a lot of energy, active 55 in there as well. So, and, I can go on and on. They rotate guys well, too. So that's why it's in some ways, and that's a tribute to them having some great depth. And they do a good job of keeping guys, fresh and rotating throughout a game.
I have a lot of respect for Bo Baldwin. He's their offensive coordinator, and we had some Big Sky battles way back, 10, 15 years ago. I really do respect him. He's a great offensive mind, and he'll find a way to get yards and get points, no matter what his personnel is. He'll adjust the scheme to whatever needs to happen. So going forward, I think Cal's got a gem at offensive coordinator.
So you can see Bo Baldwin with a little bit of an edge. Or sorry, excuse me. Weber State Kevin Clune has the edge in 2 games to 1 in 3 matchups. Does that ever matter? Familiarity with coaches, their styles?
Yeah, a little bit. I also think it depends on, whoever you have playing for you, too.
Of course, personnel.
Personnel kind of matters a little bit, too. But it does help to know, what in certain situations, like where a particular, coordinator might do, like, on a down and distance, what they like to do or tend to do. I mean, it definitely does, help to know that for sure.
Coaches have tendencies the same way players do. Sometimes if we didn't have tape on a team, we'd watch that coach's old tape with another school because they run the same things.
Yeah, that's interesting. So Bo Baldwin, he's like I hope he doesn't get hired by Oregon State because it is a very difficult name to pronounce.
Yeah.
So Coach Baldwin, he was pointing out the linebacking core for Oregon State of people that he thinks was tough. So we're going to play a little game of fill in the blank. For the Beavers to win, the linebackers need to, Greg, what do they need to do?
I'd say create chaos and havoc.
Okay.
I think when we look at the top defenses throughout the last 20 years of Oregon State, the linebackers are really flying around, from Nick Barnett playing to the late 2000s when I played with a guy named Joey LaRocque, who created a lot of disruptive plays without even, half the time I don't even think he knew the defense, but he was running around hitting people and it was very effective.
So I have a question. What's better, havoc or chaos?
I think it's the same thing.
I would say, I think it's the same thing.
You need both of them to go.
Okay, Jason.
Well, for me, I say that they have to make plays behind the line of scrimmage. There's 2 linebackers specifically. One of them, Manasseh Hungalu, the other one, Jonathan Willis, have been their 2 best players so far in the last couple of weeks. Jonathan Willis has led the team in sacks. Manasseh has led the team in tackles. So both of those players really have to be able to continue that path and continue playing really well. And the more tackles they make behind the line of scrimmage, the better it is for them. So.
All right, back in a flash, but for right now, we're sending you over to the OSU Beaver store.
Hey Beaver Nation, I'm Melanie at the OSU Beaver store here on campus. We play away this weekend, so you want to get your house all decked out and cheer on the Beavs. We've got these great old wine barrels that have been repurposed. You can even see the red wine on the back. Bottle openers, wine openers, coasters that are bottle openers, and a really cool clock that was the top of the wine barrel and is perfect for your wall. We've got all sorts of decor, blankets, and more. You'll find it all here at the OSU Beaver store. Fans start here.
Plenty at stake this weekend as Oregon State looking for their first Pac-12 win this season, going up against a Cal team that needs to win 2 of their next 3 games in order to become bowl eligible. And it's time now for our Papa John's ingredients to victory. If the Beavers score a touchdown, you win the following Tuesday with Touchdown Tuesday. And obviously one of our ingredients to success on this show is Papa John's pizza. Getting our fix before
Getting in.
Jason
That's
really
right.
enjoying it.
Roll up the sleeves,
get
down, dig on in. Dig on in.
All right, going back to this weekend's game, obviously a tough one for the Beavers. What is your ingredient to victory? Ingredients to victory, Jason.
So for me, win the turnover battle. They've had a hard time winning this turnover battle. They've struggled with it the whole year. Continually struggling with it. They struggled with it again against Stanford. So I think they need to win a turnover battle. That's one of the main things. the second thing for me is play within themselves. These last 2 games, they've really been able to, play with energy, play with passion, and everything's been reinvigorated with them, with Coach Hall being the head coach. So as long as they play within themselves and continue down that path, I think they'll have a good game. And lastly, score early touchdowns. So take the crowd out of the game.
Greg, what do you think?
I completely agree with winning the turnover battle. When you're on the road and an underdog, that's the #1 thing. Beyond that, I'd say you got to establish Ryan Nall early. You know he's a little upset about the way it ended last week, the type of competitor he is. Yep. So you want to get him the ball early, get him established, start controlling the clock, start controlling the game. So get Ryan going. And then I think most importantly, they got to believe. The last 2 weeks, they've showed that they can compete. They've been right there. But teams that win, they know when it comes down to it that they can win it at the end. I think in all the underdog games we played under Coach Riley, he would always harp on, don't be surprised when you look up in the 4th quarter and you're winning. Yep. When you're there, have a plan for that moment and be ready for it. So I think that's what they need to do here.
Yep.
Okay, so looking at the schedule, they've got Cal, Arizona, which has, again, come out of nowhere with Khalil Tate, Arizona State, and Oregon. Is Cal their best chance to win the season?
Probably, yeah. It is their best chance to win. That said, I think they could win all 4 of those games. You know, I'm not counting them out in any of those
This defense can stop Khalil Tate.
This
you have confidence. That's a tough task.
Get him, hurt him. It only takes one shot. Just take him out. Take him out. That's all you have to do is take him out. But yeah, all 4 of those games they could win. But this is their most winnable game.
I think it's absolutely the best chance because it's the next chance. I think it's the game we're going to play this week. It's an absolutely winnable one.
Yep.
Beyond that, I know the players aren't thinking beyond that. I think obviously they're going to compete every week. I think there's always a win out there in the Civil War. So I think this is the one they got to win this week, but I think there might be a few sitting out there for them.
Yep.
And do you think it's going to be close? Do you think it's going to be a blowout? I think it's Cal by 7.5 points.
It's not going to be a blowout. It's not going to be a blowout. It's going to be close.
Okay.
It's going to be close.
All right, well, we'll see you back here for Talking Beavers next Wednesday at 7 p.m. to wrap things up. Have a great weekend, everybody.